Here, at Foreign Visitors View YouTube channel, we continue to tell you about our trip around Portugal.
We drove through it from north to south and back.
We started our story from the northernmost city called Bragança, where we learned many legends.
And the city of Guimarães, usually referred to as the place where Portugal was born.
Guimarães was visited on our way to Chaves, where we saw Trajan's bridge.
We shared our impressions about Miranda do Douro, located on the border with Spain.
And about the highest mountainous city in Portugal, Guarda.
We visited Belmonte, which is considered the most Jewish town in Portugal.
We showed you Monsanto, the sacred mountain connected with the Knights Templar.
And today we want to tell you about another town that reflects all historical eras. Now it is called Idanha-a-Velha, that is old.
Because there is also a new one, which is a municipality.
And it includes the parish of Idanha-a-Velha and Monsanto, which we discussed in the previous video.
And at the end, there will be the promised story about smart traffic solutions.
We are your guides,
Konstantin Krasovsky.
and Tatiana Andreeva.
Subscribe, hit the like button, and leave your questions in the comments.
Idanha-a-Velha sits on a hill in a locality that had been invaded and plundered countless times.
Archaeological evidence shows that it had been inhabited since prehistoric times. Traces of Celts were also found.
The settlement that can be still observed currently was founded during the 1st century BC when Emperor Augustus, also known as Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus, ruled.
Exactly because he was called Augustus, many cities founded at this time were called after him: Asturica Augusta, Bracara Augusta, Emerita Augusta, etc.
Idanha-a-Velha was then called Civitas Igiditanorum.
It was then an important waypoint on the transport routes between Coimbra and Mérida, Emerita Augusta at that time.
One of the key issues of this transportation network was related to extraction of minerals which the Roman Empire needed.
As we already discussed in the video about the city of Chaves.
Since 409, the former Roman provinces of Galicia and northern Lusitania were occupied by the Germanic tribe of Suebi and became part of the kingdom of the Suebi that maintained its independence until 585.
The Suevi were one of those Germanic tribes whose resettlement at the beginning of the 5th century caused the decline of the Roman Empire.
In the 6th century, Visigoths conquered this territory along with most of the Iberian Peninsula.
During this time, the village, now called Egitania, became an important episcopal seat.
It is curious that Egitania became the center of the diocese of the Christian Church under Suebi and remained so under the Visigoths.
It is believed that the Suebi king chose Egitania as the center of the diocese, because the Romans built a primitive basilica here in the 4th century, and it became the basis of the Egitania Cathedral.
Egitania remained the bishop seat until 1199, as we learned when we visited Guarda. At that point, King Sancho I received permission from the Pope to move the center of the diocese to Guarda, because Egitania by that time was devastated by wars.
In the course of the conquest of the Iberian Peninsula by the Arabs and the subsequent Reconquista.
Between the 9th and 10th century, under Moorish rule, the cathedral was transformed into a mosque.
And the Reconquista left the town depopulated and in ruins.
The present-day Idanha has traces from all of these historical periods.
In addition, we will be able to see buildings from the Renaissance period related to the famous Manueline style. Some tourists, unlike us, have to walk for a long time.
As befits any fortress, Egitania is located in a loop of the river Ponsul.
We drive in and try to find a parking spot.
The hut next to the parking lot turns out to be a single-nave chapel of the Holy Spirit, built in the 15th century and rebuilt in the 18th century.
As it turned out, the parking itself was on the square of the Holy Spirit. We walk a little and find ourselves opposite the northern gate.
These are the gates and walls of a Roman fortress built here in the 4th century to protect it from barbarians.
We move along the street of the Holy Spirit and reach the chapel of Saint Domasus.
Domasus was Bishop of Rome from 366 to 384, when Christianity was proclaimed the official religion of the Roman Empire. And
he commissioned Saint Jerome to make the Latin translation of the Bible.
His early life is less well known, so sources vary in claiming that Domasus was born either in Rome or here, in Civitas Igiditanorum, which later became Egitania and Idanha-a-Velha.
So it is no coincidence that there are churches in Portugal dedicated to Domasus.
We saw one more church named after him in Guimarães, which is also claimed by some to be his birthplace.
From the chapel of Domasus, a street goes further into the town, and then we see a church square.
And on it indeed is the main church previously called Igreja da Misericórdia, the Church of Compassion. Misericordia is compassion in Portuguese. Churches with this name are also found almost everywhere in Portugal.
Not far from the church there is another attraction, a pillory.
However, it is a symbol of municipal autonomy.
It dates back to the reign of King Manuel I of Portugal.
This king is most often mentioned in connection with the so-called Manueline style of architecture, or the Portuguese Renaissance.
This style developed using elements borrowed from the colonies conquered by Portugal.
Examples of this style are numerous. We observed them in Guarda and Batalha.
Many famous examples can be seen in Lisbon.
However, Manuel also undertook reform of the legal system, and during his reign the laws in force in the kingdom were revised to suit the application in the vast sprawling empire.
For this purpose, the publication of Manuelin's ordinances was undertaken.
Stone columns or pillories can be seen in almost every major town in Portugal. They usually stand in front of the town hall, bishop's palace, cathedral or main church, symbolizing local power and autonomy.
From the pillory, we go south along Rua do Castelo, that is Castle Street.
Here are the ruins of the Templar Tower, Torre dos Templarios.
This abandoned structure, with a tower dominating over it, was part of a castle built by the Templars after King Afonso Henriques gave the area to the Knights Templar.
We touched this in more detail in our previous video about Monsanto.
Like in Monsanto, it is assumed that the castle here was built on the foundations of Roman buildings.
Here we come to the end of the fortress and can see what the wall and the buildings beyond it look like.
But there are also residential buildings inside.
People also live here, and there are many cats.
We pass through a small square and approach the Epigraphic Museum, where numerous inscriptions on stones are collected.
Researchers report this to be the largest single collection of inscriptions from Lusitania.
A significant number of them are Celtic.
The Epigraphic Museum is in Egitanese Cathedral, the first Visigothic cathedral built in the Iberian Peninsula.
Visigoths might be commonly believed to be barbarians, yet there is plentiful evidence that for this region the Visigothic rule was quite a favorable period.
For instance, Egitania is considered to be the birthplace of the Visigothic king Vamba, whose nickname was the Big Punch.
He is known for waging wars of conquest and seeking to expand the Visigothic kingdom.
He also restored the Roman walls around the city of Toledo in present-day Spain, which we also hope to tell about someday.
Here's how the painters from the 19th century depicted Vamba's ascension to the throne.
And the end of his reign. Nearby is another attraction.
The southern gate of the Roman fortress.
And a reminder of the reign of Moors or Arabs here is Casa Marocos, that is a Moroccan house.
However, it is not an original structure from that period.
The building was built by an unknown architect in the 1950s. It belongs to the Portuguese Suave style, which developed as a truly Portuguese national architectural style
during the reign of dictator Antonio Salazar.
Although we did not find a way to drive in here, we still see some cars inside the city walls.
And tourists are welcome here too.
In the center of the town, on Mulberry Street, there grows a large mulberry tree.
And tourists here are invited to visit.
Casa da Amoreira, Mulberry House.
Portugal has excellent highways that allow you to quickly travel between cities separated by mountain ranges and valleys in between.
However, driving along the winding roads that follows all the curves of the terrain allows you to see those small towns that are not located on the highways.
We visited several of these nice towns on that day while driving from Belmonte to Monsanto.
There were also much smaller villages on our way.
Soon we began to notice an unusual behavior of traffic lights at the entrance to populated areas.
If you take into account the road sign placed before the settlement and reduce the speed to 50 km per hour in advance, the traffic light will glow green welcomingly.
If you approach a traffic light at a higher speed, which may seem normal to drivers in some countries,
the traffic light will switch to red, forcing you to stop and stand in front of this traffic light for a while.
And then you will start moving at the speed at which it is appropriate to move in populated areas.
And we, your guides,
Konstantin Krasovsky,
and Tatiana Andreeva,
we wish you green traffic lights
and exciting travels.
We'll continue telling you about our travels in our next videos.
Therefore, subscribe to the channel, put thumbs up, write comments, and share our videos with your friends.
See you in the next city or country.